Nick, you guys had a kind of a difficult road trip. You come home today. How important is it kind of to nip the losing streak in the bud and kind of get back to the winning ways that you guys showed on the first homestand?
It was a tough road trip. We started out good, taking the series from Texas and then going into Boston. We just, didn't play well as a team. We either pitch and not hit. We didn't play, well altogether. And, you're going to have series like that. And, it's a long season, and I'm sure it's not going to be the last time. But, you just got to go through it. It's behind you. Come home to a 10-game homestand and, regroup.
Do you think when you guys lost the seven-run lead in the first game, that kind of filtered to the rest? Do you think you guys had a tough time getting over that?
It could have started out a little bit. Well, it actually started out good, but it could have ended up a little bit better. But that's baseball. Anything can happen. You can have a 10-run lead, and it's still early in the game, especially in Fenway. It's just the crowd's always into it. It's a tough place to play, but I thought we started out good, and just kind of went downhill from there. Like I said, you're going to have those series, and you put it behind you and move on.
Nick, I know it's early. We're only 13 games into the season. You've talked a little bit about being more of a vocal leader now. If something like this continues, the losing streak continues, would you feel comfortable enough going to guys and saying, "Look, this is unacceptable. We need to break from this. We're a much better team than we're playing"?
Yeah, I speak for the outfield. I have I'm saying stuff to some guys, suggesting things here and there. Just trying to help out any way you can. And I think Brian does a good job with the infielders and pitchers. They talk amongst themselves, but altogether, I think everybody gets the picture. We just did lose 4. We're coming home. It's still real early in the season. You can't judge anything, but it's something that good to come home to. We got 10 games at home. I think all the guys have put that behind us, and we're looking forward to get this homestand started.
Like a little different topic, Alex Rios was interviewed this offseason, and they said, "Who's the right fielder that you look at as being the best in the American League?" And he said, "You." When you were asked that question, who are some of the guys you like watching? You like to watch play in the right field?
I gotta say, same back to him. He's, some people have compared us as very similar players. We have our weaks and strengths, but I say it's a very fair comparison. He goes out there and plays hard every day. Plays a great right field, and he can hit. He's a 5+ guy, and he's fun to watch too.
Last question, Nick. You got a suite here as part of your your new deal. How are you going to put that to use this homestand?
I mainly got it for my wife and my son. Just having them behind home plate, it's kind of rough, especially with a newborn, and it's cold here early in the year. But that was the main reason. But the other part was, we're going to have charity events. We're going to have kids come in, have the suite a couple times a week. It just helps out. Makes them easier for them, and you can actually do things for the community that way.
Youth groups coming in, right? Don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, they're coming in, and it just allows them to have fun. Up in the have the box themselves. Watch a game, and it's just a nicer way to watch the game when you can do that for the community. It's nice.
Thanks, Nick.